It seems like at the core of every man's life, there's a thread that was laid down from the start, that his invitation is to follow in his life. That's the thread that is leading to authentic expression, to right service, to feeling in the flow with creative work, with actually having a positive impact on the world. But for most men, this thread has been abandoned, not from some moral failure or because he made some overt conscious mistake, but because that's just the way that our culture is set up. It's not set up to create families or institutions or situations that will foster the following of this sacred thread, we'll call it. And it's sacred because it's a man's dharma, it's his destiny and purpose and what he's here to embody. The values, the way of being, his innate gifts, his innate medicine for the world. The culture is set up to divert a man from that, to take him far away from that, and instead to obey and basically follow a prescribed path towards the sanctioned, safe ideals of the culture that perpetuate the culture, rather than the flourishing and the expression of the man's unique gifts. So what that leads to at scale is a world that we have now. We have a world that is comprised of at least speaking just to the masculine, to the men, a lot of men who have done the right thing on paper and who are concerned with continuing to do so. But the effects of that, because it's not a natural situation, over time they become too much to bear, and there's side effects that come as a result. These side effects are being seen in the way that men are doing these days. There's a meaning crisis with men specifically of a certain age, but now increasingly of all ages, the entire span. It used to be that it was a meaning crisis that would come upon men more around the age of, say, late 30s through early 50s. And this is known and was known as the middle passage, or perhaps more colloquially as the midlife crisis. But now it seems like men of all ages, whether they be young men or old, are encountering the undeniable side effects and consequences of having had this thread at the core of their being systematically denied and diverted away from, which of course is causing this lack of meaning, but also other consequences, other side effects: depression, anxiety, loss of motivation, a certain ennui, if that's the right word of saying that word, right way of saying that word, a certain meaninglessness. What is it all for, right? To me, this is very distressing. This is very sad, because I've made my entire life about listening for and following that thread, regardless of the consequences. I, from a young age, knew that I was an artist, and I needed to make art, I needed to make music. And that meant that I followed the complete opposite of the prescribed path. I went down a path that people told me was crazy. I decided to pursue my dreams of creating music and performing on stage and living with other artists and doing it my way. And there were certain drawbacks to that, certainly. There were economic hardships. There were times of extreme doubt, times where it felt like I was very far away from where I was supposed to be. But here's the thing. If one follows this thread for long enough, it never fails you. It takes you where you're meant to be. And I am where I'm meant to be. And along the way, I also created what I knew that I needed to create. I made the art that was there for me to make. And I'm very fulfilled by that. I'm very happy about that. I'm very, very enriched by it. And my relationship to this thread is as strong as ever. And I continue to follow it. And it's what has allowed me to feel at peace in my life. Even as I'm moving forward and building a business and creating things for the outside world, perhaps in a more market-focused way than I had before, I feel fundamentally like I'm in the right place and I'm at peace. And if I were to die tomorrow, then I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't prefer that, but I would be okay with that. And I feel that I took this for granted, this ability or perhaps stubborn obstinacy to refuse to put this thread down that I knew was there has actually become a benefit, because I've seen that in working with people now for the past number of years, but also just as like a way for me to hopefully be of service and help people come back to, what are you meant to be doing right now? Like, the world is going to shit. The world is doing what it's doing. It's going through the death throes of the previous way of being. And if you don't have connection to this thread, you're going to be lost in that. You're going to be overwhelmed by that. The storms are rising. The seas are rising up, right? It's getting choppy out there, as I'm sure you feel. And it's not like I'm immune to feeling that. But knowing that there is an inner, to say destiny sounds like almost more dramatic than it is. It's more of just like an inner direction that feels calm. It feels certain. It feels laid out in front of me. It feels like I don't need to worry. It feels like I can trust it. I can relate to it. I understand the ways in which this thread communicates with me, I suppose, or the signals of me following it. And I don't think I'm special at all in having this. I believe that it is something that every man has. Every man has a connection to his unique dharma and purpose in this world. It is not limited to one form. Sometimes when I'm speaking with clients, we'll talk about purpose, and there'll be this idea of, I need to find my purpose. It's in one specific form, but it's not. It's more of like a way of being. Like your way of being, your unique way of existing in the world. That's your purpose. Your purpose is you. But the way that unfolds is more of an apprenticing to a mystery or to a way of listening and then acting. So over time I've come to understand that the model, I suppose, is very simple. It's just listen for the thread, trust it, and then act on it. And that sounds a little esoteric perhaps, but I'm really speaking on a very practical level. Like if perhaps you're at the end of a line in your career, maybe you've achieved what you want on paper, but there's a sense of what comes next, or was this really worth it, or when's enough? Well, perhaps you're in a different situation. Maybe you are looking at the world and wondering, like, how do I even fit into this? What is this for? What is life even supposed to be? Or maybe there's just so much hardship in your life right now that you can't even imagine anything beyond survival. I think the 3-stage approach to listening for what wants to happen, trusting it, and then acting it applies in all of those scenarios. It's more of a decision to take back your attention and energy and focus from the relentless onslaught of the outside world through media, social media, this culture that is hell-bent on destroying that connection to the sacred within you. Once you see that and make a decision that that's not how you're going to live, then your focus turns back toward this inner thread and finding it, listening for it, understanding how it communicates with you, how it really is you. Just using metaphors to describe a larger part of you than you may know from the day-to-day. Or just using a different way of symbolizing the fact that you are bigger than just who you are listening to this video, perhaps, or who you know yourself to be on a day-to-day basis. We are doing what we can with language to describe an inner experience of being connected to your authenticity and to your truth. Because when you have that, the decisions about what should I do next in my career, my business, I feel myself at a crossroads, I feel the earth at a crossroads, what should I do next? Those become far less pressing and soul agonizing questions, because rather than trying to figure it out in your head, rather than trying to think about it, you are orienting to an instinctual movement within yourself that should be obviously discerned from other parts of us that may have different types of agendas, that may not be fully in service of the greater whole. Probably another video. But when we have enough of that discernment to understand this authentic thread, this authentic call from within towards what the next step is, then we move. And that's the key with this approach, is that there's actually nothing wrong with you. If you feel like you're on a ragged edge, and for a long time it's felt like there's been something wrong with you, it's really not that there's something wrong with you. It's that you can't hear because you've been conditioned not to hear what the next thing is that wants to happen through you. You probably don't even have that stance to life, which is fine because nobody ever helped you see that it could be like that. But if you can see that there's this thing that wants to happen, it has its own agenda. It's not all that mysterious. It's germane to you. It has something to do with who you came here to be, who you've always been at your core, your essence, your authentic self, your integrity. If you could come back into relationship with that, begin having a relationship with it, you would see that there's nothing wrong with you. The only thing wrong is a condition that is being invited to be shed, a conditioning, a programming. And I believe what we're seeing at scale now is the impetus or obligation on the part of men, especially, to begin doing this type of inward turn, not for the escape from reality, not to refuse achievement, service, contribution, or being of use, but instead to recalibrate. Are we actually of use? Are we actually being of true, authentic use? Or is what we're doing just a perpetuation of old traumas, old madness, old conditioning. Because I know that if you're still listening to this, we both know that the way that the world has been will not be the way that it will be. The promise that we were given about how reality would work when we were coming up has been broken. It will not be that way. So we cannot rely on the old system, the old bargain, because that's really what it was. It was a bargain. It was a bargain. If you can give up this thread within, we'll make it almost worth it. If you can practice self-abandonment on behalf of this larger cultural project, then we'll make that worth it for you. We'll make sure you can get the season's tickets and the cheapish house. We'll give you the corner office, and we'll give you the vacation. And you can have the 2 cars. You can have that approximation of feeling all right, feeling like you're the king of your household, the king of your reality. But all this really did was create compromise in the soul of men. It just created a distancing between men and their thread. And that's what I really care about changing, because it's not like we need to go out and do more and achieve more, optimize more. It's not like we need to conversely fall into pits of endless self-analysis and emotionality. It's that we need to take the best of both worlds and put them in the right order. I just don't see how one could be fundamentally at peace unless you have a connection to what's authentically already inside you, wanting to be expressed and move through into the world, and then you're doing it. That's when the flow states happen. That's when it feels like there's an energy that you're stepping into, a flow, a river, a current, and you don't have to think anymore as much, and you don't need to cope as much anymore, right? There's so many copes of the modern era as a result of this compromise, this abandonment of the actual truth at the core of who we are as men. So, to begin wrapping up this video, I invite you to inquire within you around what is the thread at the core of your life. Are you connected with it? Is it obvious to you? Is it clear what it wants you to do, what it's saying? Do you understand the way in which your inner world operates and speaks to you and attempts to guide you and move you toward what it is that wants to happen through you? If not, it's not a problem, and there's nothing wrong with you, because you do have that faculty. Every man does. It's the same faculty as hunting an animal or tracking an animal. It's that same listening quality. You know, that's the thing that I rail against when certain people say that, some of the tools and techniques that I use with men, such as dream work, are feminine. They're not feminine. Is it feminine for a man to go out and hunt an animal? No. It is a different faculty that the masculine possesses for listening and presence, which is actually incredibly masculine, because it's about opening space and beholding and listening from emptiness, which is a state very far away from most men's day-to-day, right? So I just invite you to begin perhaps making more space for yourself to hear that thread. And if this interests you, I created a masterclass about how to follow this thread. it's available in the link below. It's free. I want you to have it. It goes more in depth around what this whole dynamic is, why catching this thread is difficult for most men, and why ultimately a lot of men come to a threshold. Perhaps if you're still here, you're at this threshold where it's just no longer possible to continue in the old way, but you don't know exactly how to move forward and find the thread again. Check out the masterclass. It'll help you do that. All right? I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.